Mononoke is a 2007 anime series produced by Toei Animation, notable for its unique art style and strange plots that cross horror with supernatural murder mystery. Each episode focuses around the titular Mononoke, evil spirits created by the foul thoughts and grudges of humanity, which the series protagonists must dispose of after first learning their unique forms, truths and regrets. The series plays around quite a bit with traditional Japanese yokai and Mononoke myths, taking aspects of the legendary creature to mix and match them with commentary on life itself. I would heartily recommend this series if you're a fan of Japanese folklore and shows with interesting cinematography. However, before I can even speak about the series, I first need to discuss the difference between classes of supernatural being in Japan. A troublesome problem because many of them are fairly interchangeable and share complicated roots. The supernatural in Japanese folklore can be divided and subdivided into multiple categories nowadays by anthropologists and folklorists. We have yokai, which is a general term for supernatural entities and spirits, although more often thought to be more physical beings with anomalous features such as the kappa, the tengu, or the oni. However, in the grand scheme of things, it remains something of an umbrella term, and as a result it can be highly subdivided. We have tsukumogami, everyday objects that have gained their own spirit and sentience, and often animalistic features as well, all relating to the object they originate from or the word behind them. We have tsuchimono, the term used for somebody who's been possessed by something else, for instance kitsunesuki, being possessed by a fox, or tanuki-suchi, being possessed by a raccoon dog of all things. All of these possessions result from other yokai, but as a phenomenon it remains its own. Finally, as a sort of blanket term, we have the somewhat archaic ayakashi, referring to all supernatural beings that live above water, so creatures such as the Isenade, a giant shark with barbs on its tail, or the dragons of the ocean would not be included. There are plenty more subdivisions one could make, but I thought I would cover a few things that I already have in the past here. However, we also have Mononoke, a term often historically interchangeable with yokai in popular culture, but in recent times more often associated with vengeful spirits that possess others, cause disease, or even direct death. These spirits can be of the dead in the form of the Shiryo, or even further vengeful and destructive as the origin of the black-haired ghost girl trope, the Onryo, much beloved in Japanese theatre. However, they can also be the vengeful spirits of the living as well, as strange as that may seem, which leave their own bodies to roam abroad and cause trouble for others as an Arikyo. Mononoke were a particular concern for the nobility of the Japanese Heian period, a time when Japan was closed off from the rest of the world and the arts flourished in the then capital of Heian-kyo, now known as Kyoto. To the suspicious, overly sensitive, and even paranoid nobility of the imperial court, any bad portent or phenomena was a reason to fret and call upon monks to perform exorcisms. The literature from the time, both fiction and non-fiction, paints a strained and emotional atmosphere with powerful grudges and curses being laid so often that it's practically every day. If one were to classify it, briefly, Mononoke are a variety of yokai that exclusively originate from human nature and negative emotions most typically. These Mononoke spirits are the titular focus of the series. Sometimes the evil spirit is made almost pitiable in its origins, sometimes far more true to the cultural origin, and sometimes something wildly different. But almost inevitably, it's not actually the Mononoke in question that is the real evil at the centre of these episodes, but the various sins and actions of humans that have led to their creation in the first place. The series doesn't hold any punches with the topics it covers. Some backstories are unsettling, and some are grotesque in its most literal definition. But no matter the case, each arc is a work of art that I would heartily recommend. If you've not seen it yet, I'd recommend you do so before you watch the rest of the video. Today I'd like to take a look at one arc in particular, the third, entitled Nue, which focuses on that particular Mononoke, Interestingly, the series chose to take a classic yokai, a creature with a famous and legendary tale, and turn it into a Mononoke instead. In this arc, the drama takes place at a traditional Japanese estate where the fine Lady Ruri is being courted by a number of suitors for her hand in marriage. Not only is the lady of eminent status and quite a beauty, we're told, but she is also the last inheritor to an ancient and renowned school of incense that the various suitors all would like to have control over and inherit, for their own reasons. Not only this, but the lady possesses a truly special object, a piece of fragrant agar wood by the name of the Tadaiji, that's said to have all manner of power and a wonderful scent to it. Only something begins to interfere with the contest for the lady's hand, with all manner of supernatural occurrences taking place. Furthermore, one of the suitors doesn't even turn up, and is replaced instead by our main character, the medicine seller. Thus the episode becomes an odd one, with our protagonist engaging in games of association with different scents as the situation increasingly dissolves into chaos and tension, focused around both Lady Ruri, the Nue, and the suitors. The Nue is a varied creature in folklore. Indeed, I've seen it referred to as the Japanese equivalent to the Greek chimera in more than a few places. In some instances it is a nocturnal bird whose cry is supposed to resemble that of the white thrush, which sounds like this for context. In others it is a large black cloud that may disguise the true body beneath, whatever that is. In its most recognized depiction, however, the Nue has the head of a monkey, the body of a tanuki, the limbs of a tiger, and a serpent for a tail, although sometimes these features get swapped around. Anybody who has played the game Nioh might recognize the beast as one of the most infuriating bosses in the game, by the way. This version is from the creature's most famous tale, from the Tale of Heike, although a different version may be found in the Genpei Josuke, with the back of a tiger, limbs of a raccoon dog, head of a cat, tail of a fox, and torso of a chicken. A version of the Nue that I really would like to see more of. Unfortunately, I wasn't actually able to find any depictions of it, but hey hey. In its most famous tale, a great dark cloud settled upon the then capital of Heian-kyo, present-day Kyoto. From the day it settled, this dark cloud brought malediction, and the emperor began to have nightmares each night, falling desperately sick, which no medicine or prayer was able to assist with. Some sort of evil spirit was draining his very life force, and the storm and dark cloud above only seemed to grow worse with time, to the point that lightning struck the palace. The legendary archer Minamoto no Yorimasa was summoned, and with him he brought his attendant Aino Hyata. That night Yorimasa shot an arrow into the clouds, and it gave a truly terrible scream, before the Nue fell to the earth, and Aino Hyata leapt on its back to slay the beast. Yorimoto was rewarded with the legendary sword Shishio for his great deed, and the Nue's body was sent down the Kamo River to be rid of it, eventually being buried by the people of Ishiya village. You can actually still visit the Nue's burial mound to this day in Osaka, and at the Nuezuka in Kyoto, and the Nue Pond in Kyoto. There's actually multiple burial places for this monster, so either the Nue were a common beast, or multiple places are fighting over where the original is buried. For those of us who are in the know about the Nue as a yokai before watching the episode, we at once have our suspicions about the Mononoke's true identity. The four suitors that have come to woo Lady Ruri all possess features of one of the creatures that make up the stereotypical of legend. This is the Tale of Heike version, for context, not the chicken-bodied version. Firstly, we have Usawa Robu, a dignified character of learning and culture, and a noble from the capital, with a rather monkey-like face, representing the head of the Nue. Perhaps this is the very reason why we spend so much time with him as a viewer, and why he leads so many explanations in the episode about the incense contests. He's quite literally acting as the head of the group. Nakurai is the second suitor we're introduced to, and he's a portly merchant who is both fond of and knowledgeable about the art of incense. He corresponds to the tanuki, and the strange cone that he wears over his nose, which is only ever removed to partake in the hearing of the incense, is of course the creature's snout. And it's not just this merchant's portly physique that makes for a fitting comparison to the tanuki. In mythology, these creatures regularly engage in trickery and mischief, often through the use of their somewhat stupendous assets. Fortunately for our eyes, Nakurai does not attempt the same, but he is the most underhanded of the suitors, trying to have Lady Rory lie in her judging of them and trying to subvert the entire process in his favour. It doesn't end particularly well for anyone, to be completely honest. Perhaps the most obvious suitor for comparison is Muramachi, notable among the four of them for his lack of appreciation of incense, unlike the cultured Usara and Nakurai. The man corresponds to the tiger, and I think just by looking at the whisker-like marks on his face one can quite clearly see the inspiration. Not only that, but we discover further into the story that he has something of a bloodthirsty disposition. And of course we have this somewhat out-of-place moment in the first episode, for which I think I need to say very little. Yay! And then we have the last suitor, and the least active of them in the story. Not our main character, but the fourth man that he replaced, Jisonji. He bears the least physical similarity to his counterpart, the snake, although he has patches of a strong vibrant green made all the more apparent by the mostly monotone coloration of the episode. Green as a colour is frequently associated with snakes, but more notable still is his behaviour. The moment we meet him, his words are cruel and condescending, striking Muramachi quite to the heart. One could say that they're quite venomous, in fact. It would also be remiss of me not to point out that Jisonji is completely bald, pretty much from head to toe by the looks of it. The snake, of course, is the only part of the Nue that isn't a mammal, being a reptile, and, by extension, lacking hair at all. Whether that informs some part of Jisonji's design, I of course wouldn't know. On top of all four suitors matching to some body part of the Nue, or at least its animalistic characteristics, there are moments throughout the episode's two parts in which the three of them we spend a lot of time with seem to act seemingly in unison. Hell, at one point Usara even suggests the Nue has already been encountered, only for the others to meet him in stony silence, as if admonishing him. Unfortunately, however, the suitors being aspects of the Mononoke is a red herring. The Nue is not any or any part of these four at all. But if not them, then perhaps the mysterious entity that leads to the death of Jisonji. We hear the Nue's cry earlier in the episode, and it's largely brushed off. Perhaps with just a little concern. Indeed, for a long time, with how the suitors keep meeting strange and supernatural things, we suspect the Nue may not be any of them, or some manner of trick. If the suitors are just a callback to the physical aspects of the Nue, then what is it? Seeing how discovering the form and truth of a Mononoke is a major part of this series, it's quite fitting, but few other episodes play with the question quite as much as the Nue. The entire concept behind Mononoke's interpretation of the Nue is that every legend in the real world has differences, different combinations of body parts, such as in the tale of Heike contrasting with the Genpei Josuke, or simply placing it as a nocturnal something that is heard but never seen, an undefined or barely defined creature, and when it is seen, few can decide exactly on what it is. This is even called out by Usara Robu when the suitors discuss the matter of the Nue. He tries to posit his own idea that it depends on exactly what angle it's been viewed from. The truth of the episode is that the Nue is the Todaiji, the piece of fragrant wood that all the suitors are fighting over, The Nue takes the form of what people want to see, or perhaps desire. Because this Mononoke is born from people's greed to possess this ancient piece of fragrant, rotting wood, and each have viewed it from different angles, we've, throughout the episodes, been seeing its different facets and personas. Everyone wants the object for slightly different reasons, so as a result it's different for everyone. When it's finally revealed, the Nue is something highly fitting for a plot centering around the premise of incense, of such greed and desire focused on a simple piece of wood with little value beyond what humans place on it. To be honest, the story of the Nue caught and tricked me for the longest time. I remained convinced during the first episode and a good part of the second that the Nue was in fact the four suitors, split into separate aspects and acting semi or completely independently. That Lady Rory had indeed died, and in the end the four of them would combine into the traditional chimeric form of the Nue. As neat as that would have been to see, I'm actually more glad for the resolution we got. The Nue is only the second Mononoke we see that's not necessarily human, or was once human, rather being an inhuman thing given life and power by human emotions. Perhaps on some level I was exactly the perfect audience for having preconceived notions of what the episode's Nue would be and look like. I kept expecting a large chimeric beast to be revealed, and was utterly sure that the four suitors were merely part of a larger whole, so that when the truth did come, I was very floored by it. Hopefully you have enjoyed this exploration into a bizarre series and its approach to its antagonists. I'm unsure whether I'll look into other beings from Mononoke, but it's entirely possible that I will in future. Hopefully when I do, anybody who enjoyed this video will be able to do the same for that one as well. But until next time, thank you very much for watching all the way to the end of the video here.